All right. So now we type a username in there, and it changes routes, right? We load up a new component, but it doesn't actually do anything. We'd really like to actually get something from the GitHub API. This is not an API party yet. It just claims to be. Let's make this a real party. And to do that, we will use the fetch API from HTML5. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, HTML5 still trying to make fetch happen. So, who knows how to read?
Me.
All right, go for it, Tallulah.
The fetch API provides a JavaScript interface for accessing and manipulating parts of the HTTP pipeline, such as requests and responses. It also provides a global fetch method that provides an easy, logical way to fetch resources asynchronously across the network.
Gosh darn right it does. We did something asynchronous already, didn't we? When we did sign in with pop-up. Remember, we had to wait for that to finish before we could do the next line. It didn't just wait automatically. It happens in the background. So that's what we're talking about when we're talking about asynchronous stuff. Stuff that happens in the background. The rest of the page keeps working, JavaScript keeps running, and we have to wait for that other thing to finish. So if we use fetch, we can't just on the very next line do something with the results. We have to use a promise and wait for it to finish, like we did before using then. So here's an example. And that shouldn't say params. That's another copy and paste error. Gosh dang it. All right, well, anyway. So fetch. Pass it a URL. And then that'll happen in the background. So if you want something to execute after it finishes, you call .then on the return value, which is a promise. And then it will pass the response that it gets from the server as an argument into your provided callback function. And in this case, we're just calling response.json, because most of the time, if you're talking to a modern API, you're getting back some JSON. So we'll just call response.json. If we chain another then on there, then it'll take whatever the result of response.json is, and we can do something with it. So if we assume that this, or we happen to know, because it's documented, that this thing returns a user, then we can just console.log that. And we can always put .catch at the end to deal with any errors that come up along the way. If there's an exception raised at any point in the previous steps, it'll call our callback that we pass into catch. So that is very briefly how to use fetch. So let's use it for real.